right. Welcome to episode 2 of the Reclaim podcast. No one's coming to save you. Today we are discussing Go Find Less.
Go try to find it.
And this came up because, so I've been back in the dating world for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I had a scenario, a little situationship. Mind you, the lifespan of a situationship when you are not having intercourse is about 7 days. That's the shelf life. That's what I'm discovering.
I have found that as well.
Yeah, 7
Yep.
days. It's like the 7-day itch.
Yeah. Because we have no attention span anymore as humans.
No, but like, it really, it's funny when you take sex out of the equation, how quickly it falls off.
Yep.
And Go Find Less came up because there was a situationship I had where the guy said, you just do so much, and mind you, though, in the courting process, day 1 through 3, but some of the things that he said was like he wanted a woman who was motivated. He wanted a woman who was out there getting her bread. He wanted a woman who was
Oh,
interested in self-improvement, self-love, self-healing. Oh, and worked out. 1 week later, it's all you do is work out. All you do is work. All you do is this. It's just too much.
Yep.
And for the first time ever, I said the words out loud. Go find less.
my God.
Like, and I said it with so much love, though, not even with venom. Like,
No, of course.
go find less then. Like, I am not going to put myself in a box anymore to fit somebody else's standards or expectations, especially not after a week.
Especially not after a week. And the reason that I said like go try to find less is because that type of energy from, and I'm going to say a man because I date men. I recognize that it could be whoever. There will never be less enough for them to ever feel satisfied.
Right.
Like a woman could be doing half of what you're doing or I'm doing, and it's not going to be enough attention on him.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of unhealed people out there right now. Like,
all of us still have like demons flying, like
after
for sure.
2020 too, it came out, right? Like it all came out.
Yeah, we just don't hide them anymore.
No, we don't hide the demons anymore. And I think that a lot of women or, those who identify as women, I think we have all gone in this path of like, okay, I've discovered my bullshit. I'm going to work on it and find who I am.
Yeah.
And I don't know that the fellas are there yet.
I was thinking about this actually on my way here about the dynamic on dating apps.
Oh,
Because for women like us, right, we love life. Like it's so fucking good and we want to do all of the things.
mhm.
So it's helpful and the preference is to use dating apps. Because who has fucking time to go to like mixers and like singles parties? Like,
Yeah.
I know, I don't have time. But I want to choose my words here because it's not that I think these men are bad humans, but they're looking for a quick fix. They're not looking for, at least so far in my experience.
Do you know what I think it really is? I think that we are a Pornhub generation.
Oh, yes.
And I think that men have been conditioned to view women as these sexual objects. And I've heard this big falling out of women on dating apps. Like men are like, where are all the women at?
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
And apparently there's like this whole Reddit sub community that I found on like dating after 30. And this woman has come up with this whole plan. Like if you go on a dating app, if you're going to swipe left on somebody and say no to them, you actually should block them. So you teach the algorithm, do not show me this person again. This is not my vibe, because the dating apps will keep recycling the
Yeah, that's
same men
smart.
for you. Yeah. I think that because we are this like Pornhub generation, there's a lot of men out there who have been conditioned to think that women just want to be sexualized.
Yeah.
And I'm
The
sorry.
praise kink does not go that deep, guys.
No,
Like, we're not, it's fun. I like to hear a good girl now and then, but like.
Listen, when your opening line is, would you like to sit on my face? I think that we can do better. I think we can do
Not
better.
now.
Like right this second. Like I thought we'd get coffee first. I don't know. And what are we doing? But it's, like it's really, and we've done a disservice to ourselves by allowing this to be like, I have talked to men recently who have told me they're trying to stop watching porn. Like they're
Yeah.
trying. They're trying
Yeah.
really hard. And even myself, like I'm trying to uncondition myself because it's
Yeah.
just it is not a realistic portrayal of what life is like in that scenario, right?
Well, because it's like snippets. It's like a sitcom, right? Like you don't ever see the people in the sitcoms doing real life things.
No.
It's all just curated.
Yeah. And we have become now so desensitized to being over sexualized. And, I think I even put it in my dating profile at one point. I don't like, do not sexualize me. If you sexualize me, I will not respond to you. And I don't know if people just don't read or what, but that is still, the message was not received. But, I started to make my my dating profile is very specific as to like who I am and what I'm looking for. And a friend of mine reached out, a guy friend. And he's like, saw your profile on Tinder, just to let you know, guys are going to be nervous. They're not going to talk to you. And I was like, good. Because that means those aren't the people I want to talk to me.
Of course, the other side of that, right? The rub could be that then the men who, because they're good at manipulating, right? Like then the men who come forward see you as a challenge.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they'll say what you want which is why it comes back to like making sure you stay true to who you are.
Yeah, like we talked about last episode. No
Right.
bullshit, none of your own bullshit.
That's right.
Like you can't when you start to feel that dopamine coming because the guy, like the second a guy makes me smile via text, I throw my fucking phone. Like literally, like go in the
Done.
mirror and I'm like, what is wrong with you? You've known him for 5 fucking seconds. And the problem with the dating apps and listen, I am a dating app OG. Before there was a Craigslist killer, okay? There was men seeking women and women seeking men.
You want to laugh?
Yeah.
I'm a little bit older than you.
Okay, go.
I met my first husband on lavalife.com.
What's that?
It doesn't exist anymore.
I was on Hot or Not. Do you remember Hot or Not?
I don't, but
You see it ranked like a 1 through 10 on Hot or Not.
Oh dear God.
Yeah. And then remember Craigslist Missed Connections?
Oh, I do remember that.
I always wanted to be somebody's missed connection. Thank God I wasn't. That's how I would have actually gotten murdered. I was absolutely so like in my college years, the whole like don't shit where you eat thing. I didn't want to date the guys I went to college with
Of course.
because it was too small of a school.
Yep.
So I would literally go on like 3 online dates a week because mind you, I had a lot of things going on in my personal life in college. It was just another escape. It wasn't drugs or alcohol. It was sex, or it was like
Yeah.
dating. It was whatever.
Yeah.
As a dating app OG, I want another way to meet people. And I'm someone who I have no problem talking to someone in the grocery store. I actually heard that if you go to the grocery store at like 7 or 8 a.m. on a Sunday, you get the gym bros who meal prep. Like if that's your
Damn.
vibe. Yeah. Home Depot. I've heard Home Depot also is good in the mornings.
Okay. Add to list.
The list of places to go find men. But it has become this world of, hey, hi, how are you? I'm good. How are you? And you almost learn too much about somebody before meeting them. And it's only the resume they want to give you.
That's right. Curated.
Curated
All
resume.
the time.
And we have our own curated resumes too, right? Like, listen, not all of us as
yeah.
women are not everybody's on a journey. Not everybody's healing. Some of us have our own toxicity. But my toxic trait is I will fall in love with you within 72 hours. But if you pull away even the slightest bit, you're dead to me. And then I will completely cut you off. And it's as if you never exist.
Right.
Black or white, it's all or nothing.
It's a good test, though, I think sometimes. It's, something to be said for it.
It is. So I think there are a lot of women that are pulling back from these dating apps and they're pulling back from this world. And so I did a video the other day on Instagram that I basically just said, what do men want? I keep being told that you want me to play the game. Every book I've read about dating, I read this book called The Rules and it's from the 90s.
Oh.
Yeah. And it tells you how to basically get a husband. And I'm not going to lie, it probably works. Do not accept a date for the weekend after a Tuesday or a Wednesday, even if you have nothing to do. You could be sitting at home by
I didn't know that was a rule, but that's exactly how I operate. I'm like, dude, if you can't think that far ahead,
yeah.
no.
It also tells you, this is how old this book is, though. It tells you how to write an ad in a newspaper.
Damn.
But that's so like it tells you all these different things of like if a man, it basically tells you that you have to activate the chase energy from a man.
Yeah.
And if you activate the chase energy, it'll make him want you. And that game, I get it. I understand that game.
Right. But that's only for like men in their healthy masculine. Like too many men nowadays want us to chase them.
It's weird. Okay, so that's what I'm finding. Like if I
Oh.
like, but I don't even want to play the game. I'm too
Uh,
busy, too tired, too exhausted that like if I and I also think though, right? This book was written in a time where there was no dating app. So a dating app is like going to a buffet, an all you can eat buffet.
Yeah.
And there's so many options, but so little quality. And when you
I was gonna
have
say I'd be starving.
I'd be How do you think I got so skinny, bitch? Stopped eating the all you can eat buffet. When you think about it though, you've got all these options. And so like if a woman activates chase energy, he's not chasing that woman. He's going on to the next. Then like, okay, well, what's next in the buffet? What's next on the menu?
That's exactly right.
Because
Because it's dopamine hit for them too.
yeah, 1000. And you know, I think there's some fun in like chasing a woman, but I don't know. I can't seem to unlock it.
But if they're not thinking ahead, like, okay, and you know what? Everyone has different relationship goals, right? Like, I'm not saying it's wrong for a man to only want to date. If
Yeah.
that's his thing, fine. But if all they want to do is chase until they catch, it's like catch and release, right? Like,
You caught
okay,
me now.
on to that. Yeah, right.
And that's an interesting thing though, because like what happens after you got caught? Like, what do you do then? You know, and like how
Well, I mean,
long?
typically in my mind, I'm like you. I'm like, well, now we're getting married. I
We're-
mean, I'm done having babies, but like now, like married, second property, like what? Like, let's go.
Well, and, you know, I would love to say and put it out in the universe, like, you know, looking for, have you heard the song? Like, I'm looking for a guy in finance, 6'5", blue eyes.
Yes, and that is my nightmare man. So we need to come up with a new one because no.
I'm looking for a man who's emotionally healed. Don't really care about your height. I just want you to not be a douchebag. Like that's my song, right? But it's interesting though because like I think when you start to when you open yourself up in the dating world, you meet all these different people and you're trying to figure out what it is that like is going to light your fire. There is this sense if you are a woman who's doing a lot, you are going to activate if you are meeting a man who is not secure in his masculine or is not healed or has his own bullshit, you are going to activate him. Like it
Or
is
at least not self-aware, right? Because we all have shit
Yeah.
we have to finish healing. Like that's a lifelong thing. But if he's not at least self-aware enough to go, she's triggering me a little bit. What does that say about me? Instead of going, you need to be less. Like sit down.
you do too much.
Like-
you're too much.
Right.
Yeah. And I think like that's the very hard part about being a woman who's really coming into their own and like I make my own bread, not sourdough, but the green kind, you know, but like I'm doing the things, but the things that I don't do and the things that I'm like not great at, like I'm not a homemaker, like I'm not a decorator, I'm not a baker, I don't
Yeah.
cook 5 meals a week.
Girl, same. Mm-mm.
And so to find a man who will allow me to be in my feminine energy, but not subscribe to the typical roles of the feminine.
Well, right, because the typical roles aren't about feminine energy. That's all action, do, take care of, like that's all very masculine, go, go, go. The softness, the flow, the calm, the peace, that's the kind of feminine energy we want.
Yeah.
And when these men are busy telling us like, you can't be a woman that way, how the fuck are we supposed to flow?
Right. And
Like
like,
it's
you know, and I think there's this, hey, like, I need you as a woman to contribute financially to our life together because there was a study done recently. And okay, I got my information from Instagram. So don't at me if like, don't come for me if this is wrong. There was a study done. And the result was that like in Massachusetts for a 4-person household to live comfortably, how much do you think you need to make a year as a couple?
to live comfortably
As a 4-person household?
in Massachusetts, 200 grand.
$301,000
Damn.
to live comfortably. Okay. So unless you're a man out there making $300,000 a year, which there are some, but there's not many,
Right.
you need the woman to be out there hustling as well. Like you both have to be coming in hot to make that
That's right.
happen. And so that does not come without the sacrifices of what is considered the traditional relationship.
That's right.
And in the last 100 years, the role of the woman, I mean, a lot of people don't know this, but as of the 70s, like before the 70s, women couldn't get a mortgage to buy their own house.
Right.
So we're
Right.
now what, like 50 years later, and like we've had this whole shift in like how women are seen and perceived in the world. And our generation doesn't remember those days. Our generation doesn't even know what that was like.
Right.
But our parents do.
Yep.
Our parents remember it. And so I think it's why we are, as a generation, we feel a little lost because, like, as a woman, I want to be in my divine feminine. I want to find a man who brings that out of me. I want to bask in that. But I have to live in my masculine on a daily basis or I won't fucking survive this world.
You know, I have a close friend, a male friend, who is so far the only person in my life who has held the space for me to be in my feminine. And what I found the difference to be was like, I think there's this conception that we want men to solve our problems, and that's the masculine. And then the feminine is like being taken care of. And I found that to be in the way that I express being a woman, not the case. Like would it be fabulous if there was some man who was taking care of me? I guess, but like I had that and I felt suffocated. I felt like I couldn't, live. And what my friend does for me is he holds space for my emotions,
Mhm.
lets me emote, and then goes, "Okay, and now what are you going to do?" The first thing he'll say is, "How can I help?" Right? Like it's not like and he always shows up. It's not like he's not willing to do his part.
Yeah.
But I think the feminine needs to be able to express herself fully and not be told be less.
Mhm.
You're too emotional, you're doing too many things, you're doing like all of this too much stuff. Well, then you aren't the right man for me.
Right. Well, and I think that is the key, right? Like the right person for you is going to accept that in this world that we're in, there needs to be that balance
Yeah.
of, okay, can you hold space for me? And I think men, a lot of the times, their intent is to fix because they are like
They're problem solvers.
they're problem solvers. So like I'm coming to you with my issues, but not because I need you to fix them,
Right.
but because I need you to hold space for me.
That's it.
I took a
That's it.
class in college and it was about the entire class was about the concept of being there for somebody. And it's a very interesting thing when you think about like, what does it mean to be there for somebody?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's physical, sometimes it's emotional, sometimes it's a presence, sometimes it's there's everybody needs something different. But when I think about like what the dynamic is that I'm looking for from a partner, it's somebody to just feel like I'm not doing all this alone. Like
Yes.
my business, my kid, my bills, my house, I run that shit on a daily basis.
Yep.
And I know that like I'll always be okay because there is no other choice. There's no
That's exactly right.
I've
Exactly
looked
right.
and it seems as if the safety net has been removed. There is no safety net.
I
But
just like to leap without the net now. 'Cause
Yeah.
I'm like, cool, I know I can do it.
What net?
What net?
What net? There's no net. But I think that the thing that we seek is, like, dude, I don't care how big your dick is. That's not what I'm not concerned about that. Are you gonna be there for me? Are you gonna be a safety net if not that I need you to like pull out your wallet if work's going bad. I just need to know that like you will pick up the phone and I can tell you, hey, I'm spiraling today. Everything is going nuts in my life. I feel like I'm losing my fucking mind. And just someone to say, like, all right, babe, I got you, and like, just be there. Just be there.
Be there and remind you of your own power.
Yep. And don't make me feel like the answer is not, well, maybe if you did less, you
Right.
wouldn't be so stressed out. Like,
Right.
don't ever tell an entrepreneur to do less because guess what? We're going to say, fuck you.
God, when you said that, I just had flashbacks of men who said that to me. And I remember this one time I was dating this guy and I had set a business goal, and to like kind of egg myself on a little, I decided I would get this really pretty bracelet as like a reward to myself. And I hit the goal and I went and bought the bracelet. I was so fucking excited. I took a picture and I sent it to him and he's like, whoa, like, don't buy the boat yet. Like, don't buy the, and I was like, "Y- you're not on my deed and mortgage. You're not paying any of my, what the fuck are you talking? And like,
Yeah.
what? And oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, don't tell me to be less of anything because
Well,
next.
next. Ariana Grande said it. Thank you. Next. You know, I think it's hard, I think, as a woman today that is doing a lot. And I'd be hard pressed to find any woman today that isn't doing a lot.
Oh,
Whether it's in your personal life, you know, running the house, like stay-at-home moms who like run that shit.
oh, sister, if you're doing that, I try. God bless you.
1000%.
Yeah.
May God bless you.
Well,
Because, you know, we're all holding our own baggage, right? At the end of
yes.
the day, we've all got all of this baggage. And when we think about the challenges we find, and the hard part is though, you think you want, like in my head, I want this loving, supportive, beautiful relationship, and it's pretty, and it's tied in a bow, and it's a fairy tale. But anytime I talk to anybody who's in a relationship, y'all are fucking miserable. You're all so angry. You're all so angry. So do I want it? I don't know. And I think
Well,
that's the hard part.
and the longer you're doing it on your own, like I've been divorced for 10 years now. My
Yep.
second divorce was 10 years ago. I've had several serious relationships since then, but I own my own house. I run my own business. I have made my life so beautiful on my own because, like you said, I had no choice.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to sink. I'm always going to swim, right? And now, like, men aren't competing. I know people are saying this all over the place. This is not unique, but it's not that men are competing with other men for my energy. They're competing with my own fucking energy
Yeah.
and my peace.
Peace. Yo, peace is priceless.
I am not ever going to let my peace be interrupted again or my pH balance. Like, we're not.
Well, you remember those old commercials where it was like it would go through the price of everything and then it would say like priceless, like what, you know, like
Yeah,
what is
yeah.
priceless.
Yeah, yeah.
It was a credit card commercial. I forget which one, but that is how I feel about like whenever I meet somebody and I start to think about, would this person disrupt my peace?
Yeah.
And if you're meeting people who haven't like gone through their healing journey, or they haven't like become self-aware, or they haven't started to vibe at a higher level, they will absolutely disrupt your peace. I don't care.
Fast.
I don't care how hot they are. I don't care how big their muscles are or how big their D is. They're going to disrupt your fucking peace.
And you know, it's so important to like be so rawly honest with yourself about where you are mentally and emotionally before you start swiping or before you go like wherever you're meeting someone.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to get pulled into that dopamine hit of like,
Yo,
he called me hot, like,
Yeah.
or whatever it is.
you want to know my toxic trait?
Yes.
Like I always, every episode I'm going to talk about a toxic trait. And every episode I'll probably have 5. My toxic trait has been that if I'm feeling a little lonely, I go to a dating app, right? And find someone. And then you meet, like I said, the 1-week situationship. You get this attention from somebody, even if it's just
Attention.
some DMs, like you're getting
Yep.
some attention and you're getting some love, or like Snapchat, you put on a sexy picture because you're like, that's right, fellas, come to my DMs.
That's it.
Give me my dopamine. Bring it. And what happens is, though, after the week-long situationship goes off, or the second you have the date and you realize, okay, it wasn't what I wanted it to be, the absence of the attention plummets my self-esteem.
Right.
And then I have to have this like in the mirror conversation with myself, like, bitch, what's wrong with you? Like, first off, 8 billion people in the world. Not every man is meant for you. And like, I now am approaching dates differently. It's not like, oh, I hope he likes me. It's, I hope I like him.
That's right.
Like, I hope I like him, because I know that I'm bringing a lot to the table these days. It's a pretty big table to sit at. I've filled it, but I recognize that whether it's like just being super rejection sensitive, like even if I don't like a bro, like I could leave a date and be like, oh, he was nice, but I'm not into it. But if he doesn't text me later, wow, What is wrong with me? Why didn't he message me?
Give it a couple years. I went on a date last year and it was the worst date I've ever
Wait, why
like
was it the worst? Tell me.
his teeth were yellow
Okay.
and
I'm like,
he only talked about himself and he maybe asked me
Mm.
2 questions, but it was only to bring it back to himself.
interesting.
I could not wait to get it. And I don't drink on dates. Like I'm not like sober, but I don't drink on dates because I know better. Because that you're paying attention to the wrong thing when you've
Yeah.
had a little bit of alcohol, right?
Yeah.
So um
The hand goes on the knee and then it's all over.
well, and anybody's funny after a martini, like you know what I
that's
mean? And like
true.
and you don't get a good read for me anyway. Like I'm not listen, ladies, if you like I'm not saying don't drink on dates. Try it though. But it was I had never wanted to drink so badly because I was like, this date is like, oh my gosh.
Tequila. Tequila. Well, and
It was bad.
and for anyone who is sober or sober curious, or are you curious what dating is like when sober, it's a totally different ballgame.
It's so much better. Oh, I'm so glad I made that decision.
Well, and I think you do figure out much more quickly if somebody's a match or not. Cause like my dating prior to sobriety was let's go meet at a bar. Let's throw back some drinks. There was never food involved, right? Like it was so it's interesting because like the dates I've been on in the past year have actually they haven't been bad. I did have one guy show up and he drove 2 hours and I actually let him pick me up, which is probably like not the best idea. Don't come for me. But we got in the car and within 5 minutes, he was like, yeah, I've been having a really shitty day and this is just not what I expected. So I'm going to turn around. And I was like, couldn't even fake it for an appetizer. Like,
Wow.
whoa, bro. Okay. And I don't think I'm a catfish in any way. Like, I think I really try to put out, like, the feedback I've gotten is that I look better in person than I do in my photos. And I think that's good.
Yes.
Under
Yes.
promise, over deliver.
Same. Yes.
But most of the dates in the past year have not been awful because I think that like when you tell a man, oh no, you can't just take me out for drinks because I don't do that.
That's right.
Right. And
I
you
d- yeah.
raise like that's the first raising of the bar. You need to think of a date that doesn't involve getting drunk.
That's right.
Can you do that? And there's a lot of people that can't. They're like, wait, there's nothing else to do. I will tell you, there's a lot of things you
I
can
went
do.
axe throwing once on a first date.
I went race car driving recently on a first date.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And you really get to know someone that way.
Yeah, you do. And I think you get to really pay
Oh,
attention.
well, as much as you can on a first date. Like,
Right. But you get to understand if there's actually chemistry there
right.
because the dopamine hit that comes with, getting a little buzz and you're just getting all touchy-feely and everything's cute and sweet until it's not,
Right.
and that's how toxic behaviors kind of like slip through the filter,
Yeah.
right? So, like, do you have rules now? Like, do you have like a certain set of rules of like, I will only date someone if they are X, Y, and lay it out? I know you do.
Oh, please don't everyone come at me.
They're coming. They're coming.
Well, so I'm okay with a coffee date,
Okay.
depending. But most of the time I want to be taken to dinner.
Yeah.
Like there's
Just kicked you. Boom.
you're like, no dinner.
No
Fuck
dinner.
you, what are you
No dinner.
I like the idea of courtship.
Mm-hmm.
To me that because I do very much appreciate the masculine feminine energy. Again, we all express it a little bit differently. I don't think that there need to be boxes necessarily, right? Like it needs to be a flow. But there's something to be said for that courtship, I think. So like I guess I'd meet for coffee if I don't know what the scenario would be if like
I think if you're trying to figure out if someone's a vibe or not, sometimes coffee.
yeah. Yeah, what other rules do I have? Well, I do tend to like men who are a little bit older.
Okay.
Um,
What's older? How old?
well, I'm 45, so I would go up to like 55 now.
Okay.
So, yeah. But recently I've been like, well, I'm at that age truly where it's like the dad or the son.
Yeah.
And so now I'm like, should I go a little younger and kind of just see, because I'll tell you what, the men between 35 and 55 for me, like that's been the dicey, like most of them want to be chased. And if they're portraying any type of masculine energy, it's more of the, well, I'm the provider and I know exactly how everybody should do everything,
Mhm.
including you. So go be less, like all that
Yep.
bullshit. And I'm just wondering if there's, I mean, I got to be careful because my oldest is like almost 25, right? So like there's an ick factor that comes into play. But I'm just thinking maybe the younger men would be
Mm.
have a different take on things.
Yeah, I've found myself kind of in the same boat of like, what is my age limit? I think they have to be over 30. I think I'm at the like you got to be over
Yes.
30
Yeah. Yeah.
mark
Yeah.
because if they're younger than 30, they're still out there partying and having a great time, which like there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just so far from where I am.
Yeah.
And I think that the thing that I've been struggling with is a lot where I am right now, all the things that I'm doing, there's not a lot of people that do that anyway. So like, do I go for somebody who's got the same kind of lifestyle and is doing a million bajillion things and always like ready to rock? Or do I go for someone who's more
Yes.
stable and quiet and living a quiet life?
I've tried both, and I will tell you, you will be so bored. He could be the kindest, sweetest, most generous man,
Yeah.
but if he's not able to keep up with you energetically, and I
know.
don't keep up sounds like it's not a judgmental type of thing. It's like a you you will eventually be less.
Yeah.
Not no matter how hard you try,
Yep.
because
You'll
you
match.
always get pulled down.
Yep. You'll match the energy of your partner.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, I am looking for someone to build an empire with.
Right.
Like, let's go
Right.
buy properties and like flip them.
Yes.
Let's start
Yes.
a business or let's,
Yes.
let's take all the things because I don't necessarily want to do less of the things that I'm doing, but I wouldn't mind adding someone else to the equation.
For sure.
Right. Like,
Right,
that could
exactly.
be fun. It
Exactly.
could be so fun. And then there's the part of me that's like, bitch, do you really want to get tied down? Because like you're just coming into your prime. Like I am just coming into this like new bod, new bitch, new life. Like, do I want to get tied down? I don't know. But I think there's my therapist and I talk about it a lot because I think sometimes I have a lot of shame associated with the fact that I do want a partner because it makes me
Mhm.
feel like I'm less than. I'm not strong enough to do it on my own. And she reminds me all the time that like humans are built for connection.
That's
Like
yes.
we're built for it.
That's right.
The way that I think about it too is like there are some animals out in the wild that like mother gives birth to animal gets up on four legs and just walks away and essentially is self-sufficient.
Yep.
Human beings do not have that ability. We are a species that's very evolved. However, we're very vulnerable.
Yeah.
And we need other people. Like as a society, we've gotten away from this. We're very much a me mentality, but like tribes, the reason why we had tribes, right? Centuries and centuries ago, was because you needed people to come together and connect to survive and thrive.
That's right.
And so when you are doing it on your own all the time, you're surviving, but sometimes it's hard to feel like you're thriving.
And I think it gets scary when you've hit rock bottom or
Mhm.
hit several rock bottoms and you've built yourself back up. And in doing so, relationships that you thought were part of your tribe fell away.
Mhm.
So then you're like, well, like maybe I do have to do it on my own. And then you're just so much more careful about the people. And something else too is that the way that relationships look in your tribe can be very different than what you think they're supposed to. Like I really, after I got divorced the second time, I was like, I'm not doing this shit again. Like I've
Yeah.
tried it twice. I'm not like, I'll raise my kids. Maybe I'll have a boyfriend. We'll see. And then somehow I got it stuck in my head. I went through like you, like, I need to be strong. I need to do it on my own. And then I was like, I do want a husband. I think I do want a husband.
Yeah.
And now I'm recognizing that all of the things I thought I wanted in a husband, I either have male friends who give me the support that I thought, like I had to really break it down. What does like a husband mean to me? What does being tied down mean to me? What am I looking for? And if it's something I can't give myself, I don't need a ring for that. Like what,
Right.
where else can I get it? Because I'm never going to be less.
No.
If somebody tells me to be less, it gets kicked up like 20 notches.
Yeah.
That's just who I am.
My trauma response. Oh, you want less? Let me give you more.
You're gonna be blinded, buddy. Like,
Blinded by the light. Yeah, I think that it's such a delicate balance these days to find how to serve yourself and serve someone else and not sacrifice. Because I do think there is a reality in which to meet in the middle, right? Like if I want a
Only
healthy,
if you don't have to compromise.
well, true, right? But and like the way I think about it, like if I want a healthy, loving relationship, I probably can't fill my schedule 24/7, 5 days a week, because at what point am I going to build that healthy, loving relationship? So somebody needs to come into the picture who I like enough that I want to spend more quality time with that person. And I'm okay with, okay, like if it's not an activity that we're going to do together, I'm just as happy like basking in their presence every once in a while. But somebody who has enough going on in their life where like that's not what they're going to want from me 24/7. And because I can easily fall into that habit, right? Like I could very
Yeah.
easily meet somebody, and if their lifestyle is sedentary, I could go right back to living a sedentary lifestyle and being okay with it for the honeymoon phase, but it's going to fall off and I'm going to
6
get
months
frustrated.
and you're done.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Yeah. But then the toxic thing is like 6 months and you're done, but you stay for 6 more years.
It can be that for sure.
It happens all the time.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. So, what, I don't know what the answer is. And I think that we're all figuring it out as women. But I think that, like, if at any point in time you feel like someone is asking for you to be less, do less, show up less, that's not your person.
Nope.
That's
Pick light and love and send them on their way. Like,
Yeah.
done.
And, and I think that it doesn't always have to, like you said, it's send them with love. Like it doesn't always have to be an angry
Yeah.
fallout
Of
or
course not.
fuck you, I'm not going to be less, but more of
It does feel a little good sometimes,
it,
though.
it does. It does. The inherent people pleaser in me is always like, yeah, well, I'm setting healthy boundaries in my villain phase. It's like literally all you did was just tell this guy that it probably wasn't a good fit, but okay. Do you, bitch? Do you? Yeah, you're setting boundaries, all right. But I think that, for any ladies out there who find themselves in a cyclical pattern where you keep meeting the same men, and that was my thing. I kept meeting the same man over
And
and
they
over.
even start to look alike after a while. You're
Yeah.
like, oh,
My new rule is no neck tattoos. If you have a neck tattoo, it's an immediate no, because I've just found that neck tattoos usually
that's one of your rules.
it usually correlates to like you're going to destroy me. I think that when we meet someone too, right? Like, and we see all the potential that they could have. So my challenge is, I mean, if I meet you as a friend and I see you've got a talent, I'm immediately going to tell you 20 ways that you can like maximize, monetize,
Yes.
be the best you can be. I've
Yes.
taken personality tests. It comes up in personality tests all the time. I constantly want to find someone's highest and best use
Yes.
and encourage them to do that.
Yes.
And the dangerous thing in a relationship setting or in a dating scenario,
Don't fall in love with potential.
I fall in love with so much potential. Like, oh, this man has so much potential. And it's funny because I'll find myself telling a friend about him. The second I tell anybody about a guy, that's the end of it. He falls off. But
I don't even save names in the phone
No,
anymore. It's just
neither do
numbers.
I. There's you
We'll
don't get a
see.
name save unless like I think that like there's something there, or you're cool enough that I'll be friends with you in the future.
Right.
Or I think you might want to buy a house someday.
I
Yo,
love it.
I was using Hinge, Bumble, and Tinder all as like lead generation for a while. There's a lot of dudes in there that'll say like their goal is to buy a house. I always swipe yes. If you put that your goal is to buy a house in your Tinder profile, I don't care what you look like. I will swipe yes on you so quick and you're going in my database. Hi, my name's Connie. What's your email address?
That's amazing.
But I think that I fall in love with potential, and that is so dangerous because people have to come into their own on their own.
And it's not even our job to say whether that's their potential.
No.
Like that's what hit me the hardest when I got burned so badly. It was like, just because you see it doesn't mean that's who he is as a person. And that's not your fucking job. That's actually pretty arrogant of you. Like I remember saying to him, like eventually I was like, I am so arrogant.
Yeah.
And I am so sorry.
Yeah.
Because that was not for me to think or say.
Yeah. Well, and I had a situationship recently who kept saying, you'd be so good for me. You'd be so good for me. You would motivate me. You would push me. And it's funny but in my past, Melissa,
Oh,
I would have been like, "Oh my God,
let's
yes,
go.
let's do this."
For sure.
But for the first time ever, it was actually a turnoff. And I
Ugh,
just kept asking back, like, well, what are you bringing for me?
yeah,
Like, what am I going to get out of this?
right.
Because if I'm going to be your muse and your motivation, like, what happens if I'm not there? Like, I want somebody who's got it within themselves to make it happen.
Right.
And then we join forces and go from there.
And
But
then
like,
it's overflow.
yeah,
You're not like completing anything.
no, fill each other's cups and overflow it.
Yeah.
But if you're going to rely on me to be your inspiration, your muse, your motivation, just even thinking about it makes me like a little
And
heebie
that
jeebie.
and it's not even just for business stuff, right? Or career. It's also like emotionally.
Mm.
Like one of the things I found so difficult is when men look to you to be their emotional savior and like their rock. And they're not, again, like we're all there for each other, but there's a difference between having a healthy interdependent relationship and having a man who like will hold no space for your emotions, but you become the dumping ground.
So that was a portion of one of my past relationships where, you know, there was an anger issue there. And when there would be a pop off, when I stopped being compliant and when I stopped like allowing the popping off to happen and I started speaking up and speaking back, the result was you're supposed to be the one who calms me down. You're supposed to be the one who brings me back level. You're not supposed to elevate me. And well, yeah, I did that for a couple of years. And you know where it left me? With zero self esteem, with always being nervous, with always being
Right.
scared of like the next time, you know, no, you don't hit me, but when you're screaming or you're punching walls or you're doing all this other stuff, like I don't want that to be my job
Right.
to calm you down.
Or to
That's
live
not,
with that fear.
yeah,
Like,
it's not healthy.
no.
But for so long, I felt so special that my role was the only person who could make him calm. I was the only
Yeah.
person that could bring that back to level.
And that was like, a, it feels like that was less also, right? Like you were being less of
Yeah,
you.
like absolutely. Yeah, I had to completely be less than because I had to make sure that my presence didn't exasperate the situation. Right.
I think it's so important for women to like get so in tune with who they fucking are at their core and go, this is less than for me and I'm not going to accept that anymore.
Right.
Not as a judgment on any other human, but as a like, I gotta take care of my energy.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's the beauty of like reclaiming yourself and understanding that like no one's coming to save you. You have to save yourself and you
Yeah.
have to figure out what works for you. What is your path? It's going to look different. Melissa's path's going to look different than Connie's path, and Connie's path's going to look different than the person.
But I love your
next to me.
path for you.
Thank you. I love your path for you. But like go reclaim yourself, bitch. Go find what's good for you and set those boundaries and stick to it because it is the only way you're going to end up in. I'm not in it yet. I'm not in a healthy, loving relationship yet. I don't know. I'm working on healing myself to be the best partner I can be for somebody someday. And that's a big part of why I'm doing what I'm doing because I do believe there's a greater I think there's a bigger picture here,
For
right?
sure. For sure.
But in the meantime, I have accepted the fact that like, my therapist says it to me. What if you were alone? What if you were alone for the rest of your life? What if?
That's the point that I came to,
Yeah.
I was like, okay, bitch, you might
Right.
be alone.
We ain't settling again though.
That's
The biggest
That's right.
message. Like, and I think that's what we leave the audience with today. Like,
yeah.
no matter how sad and lonely you get, you do not settle because what you're settling for is a dopamine hit, and that dopamine will not last.
Message us instead.
Message us. Exactly. Or get a cat. That's on my next list. I'm getting a fucking cat. I'll be a
Cats are
cat
fucking
lady.
amazing.
Thank you guys for joining us. Episode 2 of Reclaim. Nobody's coming to save you. We'll see you next week.